Hello friend, welcome back to Auto Resource YouTube channel. Here you can see 2014 Subaru Outback, and it came for the front brake pads replacement. If you wanna see how I will do that, stay with me in this video. And I guess Subaru did a good job with designing this system, because my friend said that they heard a scraping from the brakes, right, when applied. So it looks like those reminding taps starting scratching the rotor somewhere, but the rotors seem to be in still perfect condition and they are undamaged. I will start this job with removing this caliper, and I will need for that 14mm socket. There are two bolts, one is on the top right here, right, so I need to loosen this, and one is down here. When you work on the brakes, you always need a hanger, because you don't let that caliper hang on its brake line. That could damage the brake line. So you have a hanger available, right, ready for this. There's not much space here for my large camcorder, but hopefully that gives you idea how the pads sits here, right? And also, to remove those old pads, it should be very simple, unless it's rusted together or something, right? You just slowly, nicely walk them. This one towards me, right? It's going out. Here you can see that reminder element, which actually is for purpose of starting scraping the rotor without damaging it and giving you that audible signal that it's time to replace it. The inner pad is the same. I'm just moving it towards to the engine, right, inwards, and now it's time to hit the road and go get a new parts. And I already did the visual inspection of the rear brakes, which means using little mirror, right, and looking through the rim. These ones have a lot of openings, and it looked to me that the pads were like 2 to 3 millimeters, but then I kind of doubt myself. I was like, okay, let's just pull it off and do it in the detail, and I'm very happy that I did that. So here you can see the same. It was on two 14mm bolts. Also make a note, these ones are not hanging, because there is really nice place to put them resting away from the brake job, right? But look here, the outer pad is actually also a little bit unevenly worn, right? On this side, we are on the driver's side, and that definitely needs to be replaced. And not to leave anything to guessing, yes, the rear ones will be removed, right? Exactly the same like the front ones, right? The pad goes out this way. And the inner pad, I might not even need that screwdriver like in front, right? I should be able nicely pull it out. Excellent. Now, and if you are doing the same thing, I will always recommend you, when you go to shop for the parts, take one of each with you as a sample, so you can compare it when you are getting new part and they don't sell you the wrong one and then you keep driving there and back. So I got a new brake pads for all four wheels, but what else needs to be done before installing everything back? But first of all, I measured that the minimum thickness of the rotor, brake rotor, is good and it still can be used, right? I knew that before going to the store. Now, if you can see this installation hardware, it's really dirty, and I will not just slap those brake pads on it, so I will carefully remove it. Alright, again paying attention, and do you see the detail? I want to have that perfectly clean before I will start installing the new pads. And why am I cleaning it? It's because the pads are floating, right? They are sitting on top of these and they are sliding with that brake action, right? Using the piston, caliper and the rotor, it needs to be easily sliding on top of those, and that's why it needs to be cleaned. Now here you can see the new brake pads, right, for both sides. You can see the comparing all those details, right? So it's ready, driver side, passenger side. What you can do if you want, as you can see, there is only one layer of the backing on that pad, right? So if you want to really minimize or do everything to stop the brakes squeaking, these pads which came off, they have 2 layers of the backing, you can see here, right? So you can peel off that one and it should nicely give, right, using small screwdriver. Now I can go ahead and nicely clean it and apply on that new pads small amount of this brake quiet, right? It's not something thick, just a little bit, right? Thin layer, and that will be between these 2 backings, right? It dries in approximately 10 minutes, right? And it can be installed, and I will do the same all remaining 3. And now I know I did all I could to make those brakes quiet. And I wanna have those pads nicely sliding in those steel mounts. So I will use this synthetic grease, which is made for brakes. It means it's a high heat resistant, right? And I will very carefully apply it to the certain spots on this brake pad. The amounts of grease will be very small, and looking on those mounts, I know it was sliding in these 2 areas. It wasn't touching here on the tip, but in these 2 spots, the pad was sliding, right? And that's where I put those very small amounts of the grease. So I'm finally ready to bring this pad, right, and carefully start inserting it in those mounts. Nice. This is wonderful, right? Observe the details, everything is correctly fitting, right? That's how it's supposed to be. I will wipe off this stuff which still is squeezed out, and I can continue with the other pad. And this one is coming on that inner side, right? So now I have brand new pads perfectly in the place, right? And what's about that caliper? Can I put it back immediately? Well, I cannot, because these pistons are all the way out, right? And they need to be pushed back in the caliper. To do that, I will use one of those old pads which I don't need anymore, right? And this tool, hopefully you can see it. And I will start pushing those pistons, hopefully you can see it nicely, in. Now, while you are doing that, you have to remember you are moving the brake fluid. And I know if I do all 4 brakes around this car, right, and the brake fluid reservoir was nicely full, it will overflow. So maybe when I will finish this one, I will lower this vehicle and I have to remove some amount of brake fluid, get it out. The pistons, both of them are all the way back in the caliper, but I will not install it yet. I want to do one more thing before that, and I will show you right now. The entire assembly is so-called floating caliper, and that floating function is achieved by these sliding pins where the caliper was mounted with those 14 millimeters, right? So ideally, you remove those and check the lubrication. And again, it's just a little amount, right? Not much. And basically, these are assuring that floating function is assuring that the both pads, outer and inner, are wearing equally, right? That it nicely can move. Look how easy. This cannot be dragging, it must be super easy, movable. So here we go, remove it from that hanger. Make sure you are not twisting that brake line. I saw this thing happen in the past, right? And now I'm carefully placing it on top of those pads. I'm aligning those sliding pins, right? Nicely went on. A little bit wiggle here. And I can start installing those two 14 millimeter bolts. And I want to have it done correctly, so I will torque these bolts to the 45 Newton meters. I remember it was my first car in USA. That was actually what happened. You heard that? Somebody didn't torque it right. Nice. And that actually got loose. One of the bolts fell out. It got loose and it created a lot of damages, and it costed me a lot of money because some mechanic just didn't torque it correctly. So this is important. And you can see here with me, I have perfectly installed brand new brake pads, right? Everything is torqued. Everything is perfectly in place. And I can move on the other front side, on the opposite side. And I lowered this Outback just to show you that really that fluid, it's already coming over the max. If I do the passenger side there, it might even start overflowing. So there's definitely no way that I will continue with the rear brakes. I first have to open it, evacuate some of that fluid, right, to remove it, and then I can continue with the rear brakes. And I won't be filming those rear brakes despite the fact it's called this video front and rear, because it's exactly same design, it's exactly identical. The only difference is that the caliper is smaller, and instead of two pistons there is just one piston, but the procedure will be absolutely identical. And also I don't have a time. Filming video like this slows me so much down, so I need to get going and finish this car because the customer wants to come and pick it up. I hope you enjoyed that video and it gave you some idea how this work is done. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumb up, right? And make sure you are subscribed because I have way more coming your way soon. Thank you for watching and have a great day, my friend.